Within a quarter of a second of meeting someone, your brain has already decided whether you like them. This is not a conscious choice. An automatic neural alarm fires before you have even registered their name. The same process is happening to you in every room you walk into. And the reasons someone might instantly dislike you have almost nothing to do with who you actually are. A glance, a tone, a subtle shift in posture, these are all it takes for the brain's alarm system to snap into action. Within just 170 milliseconds, specialized regions in the visual cortex have already processed a stranger's face, registering details that never reach conscious awareness. The amygdala and insula, deep in the brain, light up even faster, sometimes in under 150 milliseconds, flagging anything that hints at threat or discomfort. This is not a slow, thoughtful process. It's a reflex, wired by evolution to scan for danger or disease before reason has a chance to intervene. Electrophysiological recordings show the N170 spike, a marker for face recognition, peaking before a quarter of a second has passed. Emotional cues, like a flash of anger or disgust, trigger the early posterior negativity, called EPN, at around 120 milliseconds. The amygdala's signal can begin as early as 200 milliseconds after seeing a negative face or hearing a hostile voice. By the time a name is spoken, the brain's internal radar has already sent its verdict up the neural chain. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls this rapid-fire system System 1. It is automatic, intuitive, and operates beneath conscious thought. System 1 isn't just fast, it's relentless, firing off judgments that feel like instinct. These snap reactions set the stage for everything that follows, coloring how every word and gesture is received. In the blink of an eye, the mind has already decided whether to move closer or pull away, often without a single clear reason to point to. Once the brain's alarm system has fired, a chain of mental shortcuts quietly locks in that first impression. 4 classic biases shape how these snap judgments become surprisingly stubborn. The halo and horn effects are the first to take hold. If a stranger's face or voice gives off even a subtle negative signal, the horn effect can color every trait we notice afterward, making someone seem not just unfriendly, but also less competent or less trustworthy, even if there is no real evidence. Confirmation bias then steps in, nudging us to notice only the cues that match our initial gut reaction. A single awkward pause or an offhand remark gets remembered, while friendlier signals fade into the background. The fundamental attribution error, described by psychologist Lee Ross in 1977, adds another layer. We tend to blame a person's character for any behavior we find odd or off-putting, rarely considering that they might just be tired, distracted, or new to the situation. Finally, the in-group out-group heuristic sorts people by subtle cues of similarity or difference. Faces, accents, or even clothing styles that seem unfamiliar can trigger a subtle distancing, making us more likely to judge outsiders harshly, even if we have no reason to distrust them. Together, these biases explain why a fleeting negative impression can stick. They act like filters, shaping how every new word, gesture, or expression is interpreted. Once the mind's alarm has sounded, these shortcuts make it hard to see the person in front of us with fresh eyes. A face appears for just a fraction of a second, and the mind gets to work. Nalini Ambady, a psychologist at Tufts, called this phenomenon thin slicing, the ability to extract social meaning from a fleeting glance. In her classic studies, people watched 2-second video clips of strangers and predicted everything from likability to leadership skill with surprising accuracy. Even a silent, frozen image can trigger the same effect. The brain's visual system, fine-tuned by evolution, reads the smallest shifts in the muscles around the eyes, mouth, and nose. Paul Ekman's facial action coding system, called FACS, breaks these movements into micro-expressions, tiny flashes of emotion that last less than 1/5 of a second. A slight curling of the lip, a tightening of the nose, or a brief flicker of disgust is all it takes to register as a warning sign. Research shows that observers can spot a micro-expression of disgust, for example, with above-chance accuracy, even when it lasts just 100 milliseconds. These signals are powerful enough to shape judgments about trustworthiness, competence, and warmth before a word is spoken. In one experiment, participants who viewed a neutral face for only 100 milliseconds made trait ratings that matched those given with unlimited viewing time. The face acts as a fast, silent messenger, delivering information that feels certain, even when it is based on almost nothing at all. This rapid decoding is not limited to obvious emotions. Subtle cues, like a brief eyebrow raise or a downturned mouth, can tip the mind towards suspicion or discomfort. The process unfolds automatically, often outside conscious awareness. By the time a person realizes they feel uneasy, the face has already done its work, leaving an impression that can be hard to shake. Personal space is one of the first boundaries people notice, even before words are exchanged. In most cultures, standing closer than half a meter to someone outside your inner circle causes discomfort and can trigger a subtle urge to step back. This reaction isn't just social, it is built into the way the brain processes threat and safety, using distance as a fast filter for intent. Sound, too, carries more weight than most realize. A flat, monotone voice lowers likability ratings in laboratory studies, making the speaker seem bored or insincere. Acoustic analysis of first meetings shows that people instinctively favor voices with varied pitch and warm tone, while voices that drone or drop in energy are quickly filed away as unapproachable. Even a single awkward pause or clipped answer can tip the scales, especially when the listener is already on alert for negative cues. Grooming and hygiene play a quiet but powerful role. Research into so-called hygiene heuristics finds that visible stains, unkempt hair, or even slightly rumpled clothing can reduce perceived credibility, especially in formal settings. These signals act as shortcuts for the brain, hinting at carelessness or disregard for social norms. In one study, job candidates with minor grooming lapses saw a measurable drop in competence ratings, even when their qualifications were identical to others. Physical confidence is another silent messenger. People who stand with shoulders back and arms relaxed, in what psychologists call an expansive posture, are rated as more likable and trustworthy, sometimes within seconds of entering a room. Closed or defensive stances, on the other hand, can amplify all other negative signals, making it harder for others to see past their initial impression. Together, these cues, space, sound, grooming, and posture, form a web of signals that shape instant judgments before a single word is spoken. Dislike is not always about the person in front of us. Sometimes, the real story starts inside the observer. Mark Leary's research on rejection sensitivity shows that people who expect to be rejected read hostility into faces about 30% faster than others. In these moments, even a neutral glance can feel loaded. Projection adds another layer. When someone carries insecurity or frustration, they may see those traits in strangers, turning a blank expression into a perceived slight or arrogance. A 2022 meta-analysis found that projection shapes first impressions with a medium effect size, confirming that what we notice in others often reflects our own state of mind. Mood matters too. Studies show that a brief negative mood, brought on by something as simple as a stressful commute, makes people more likely to rate strangers as untrustworthy or cold. These inner filters work quietly, coloring every cue. The result is a feedback loop. Insecurity or anxiety primes the mind to spot rejection, which in turn reinforces the sense of being unwelcome. Instant dislike, then, can be less about who someone is and more about what the observer brings to the moment. At a crowded party, a newcomer steps into the circle. Within seconds, eyes scan for subtle cues. Does this person seem warm or cold, confident or unsure? The stereotype content model, developed by Susan Fisk and colleagues, shows that partygoers instantly slot strangers along two axes: warmth and competence. If a guest's smile looks forced or their questions seem rehearsed, they may land in the low warmth, low competence corner, sparking quiet avoidance even before a proper introduction. Across town, a job interview begins. The hiring manager's impression forms quickly, often within the first 60 seconds. Studies show that a snap visual judgment at the start of an interview correlates with final hiring decisions, even when qualifications are matched. A single awkward handshake or a moment of lost eye contact can tip the balance, shaping a candidate's fate before their skills are discussed. On a busy train, a commuter with striking features enters the car. Research on the beauty premium finds that physical attractiveness acts as a buffer, softening negative judgments and increasing perceived trustworthiness. Even when all other cues are neutral, an attractive face can buy a few extra seconds of goodwill, while others are sized up more critically. In each scene, the mind's shortcuts turn a fleeting encounter into a lasting impression, sometimes fair, often not. Today, our split-second social judgments shape everything from friendships to careers, often without our awareness. Research shows these reactions reveal more about perception than about truth. Recognizing this, we gain perspective and empathy. Sometimes, the instant response isn't about you at all. What do you notice in your own first impressions?